Have you ever wandered through the hallowed halls of a convent at the witching hour? Imagine a sprawling convent nestled in the beating heart of New York City, a place of sanctity where peace and quiet are the norm and the world outside seems a distant reality. Now picture this tranquility, but under the cloak of night, when the city sleeps and the moon casts long, eerie shadows through the stained glass windows. I'm a journalist, you see, a seeker of stories, a chaser of truths. And on this particular night, I found myself venturing into the silent corridors of this convent. My purpose? To write about the nuns' charity work, their tireless efforts to bring a glimmer of hope into the lives of the less fortunate. As I stepped through the heavy oak doors, the world outside ceased to exist. The hustle and bustle of the city were replaced by an almost deafening silence. The kind of silence that fills the air with a sense of unease, making the hairs on your neck stand on end. Every echo of my footsteps seemed amplified, reverberating off the stone walls and arched ceilings, creating a symphony of solitude. The flickering candles cast dancing shadows on the walls, creating a surreal tableau of light and dark. The air was heavy with the scent of age-old incense, mingling with the faint hum of whispered prayers from hours past. There was a certain beauty in the stillness, a certain charm in the ancient aura of the place. But beneath this serene facade, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was not quite right. It was as if the convent held a secret that was as old as the convent itself, hidden away in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. A secret that made the silence seem a little less peaceful, the darkness a little more intimidating. Little did I know, this was just the calm before the storm. As the heavy doors creaked open, I was greeted by the soft glow of candlelight and the tranquil faces of the sisters. Their black and white habits stood out starkly against the stone walls of the convent, as if the very fabric of their beings was woven from the threads of contrast. Their smiles, warm and welcoming, were like a ray of sunlight piercing through the chill of the night. They offered me solace, a respite from the storm that raged outside. A sister by the name of Mary, her eyes as kind as they were old, extended a hand, leading me into what I thought was the safety of their sanctuary. But beneath the veneer of peace and tranquility, there was a strange sense of unease, a disquiet that clung to the air like an unseen shroud. It was as if the silence of the convent was a thin veil, barely masking the whispers of a story untold. Their seemingly simple routines were punctuated with furtive glances and hushed conversations. Their smiles, as inviting as they were, felt forced, their laughter echoing hollowly in the vast expanse of the chapel. Their eyes, once thought to be kind, darted around nervously, as if they were constantly on guard, wary of something or someone. I found myself questioning the normalcy of it all. The sisters, in their devout silence and humble lives, seemed to be concealing a heavy secret. A secret that was as much a part of the convent as the stone walls and the worn-out pews. In the stillness of the night, as I lay in the confines of my given quarters, the quiet whispers of the sisters echoed through the halls. Their words were indiscernible, their tones urgent. The peaceful facade of the convent was slowly cracking, revealing a reality that was far from the tranquility I had initially perceived. I couldn't shake off the feeling that they were hiding something. Just as I was settling into the rhythm of the convent, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. It was a sound that seemed to emanate from the very soul of despair, a cry that tore through the tranquil air of the convent like a blade. In an instant, the calm, serene world of the nuns was thrown into chaos. The tranquility that had once been their shield now lay shattered. It was as if a storm had suddenly descended upon us, turning the world upside down. The nuns, once the embodiment of peace and calm, now wore masks of raw fear, their eyes wide with terror. I was quickly ushered through the labyrinthine corridors of the convent, the echo of my footsteps drowned by the cacophony of fear that had gripped the place. The shadows in the hallways seemed to dance menacingly around us, the flickering candlelight casting eerie patterns on the ancient stone walls. The sisters' hushed whispers and hurried footsteps only added to the mounting dread. Without a word, I was led into a small Spartan room, the only furniture a simple wooden bed and a worn-out chair. Before I could protest, the door was shut behind me, the lock clicking ominously into place. The room was as cold as a crypt, the darkness almost tangible. The only sound was the distant echo of the nuns' hushed voices, their whispers seeping through the stone walls, each word heavy with fear and uncertainty. As I sat there alone, The eerie silence of the room was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. The quiet was almost deafening, the whispers of the nuns a constant reminder of the terror that had gripped the convent. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the entire convent was holding its breath, waiting for the storm to pass. In the cold, dark room, I could hear whispers echoing through the walls. As the whispers grew louder, I pressed my ear against the cold wall, straining to catch every word. The nuns, those women of faith who I trusted, were huddled together in the room next door, their voices low, hushed, their words shrouded in an eerie sense of urgency. The snippets of conversation I could make out sent chills down my spine. Was that Sister Mary's voice? It couldn't be. Not sweet, gentle Sister Mary, with her kind eyes and comforting smile. They were talking about a secret, something they'd kept hidden for years, something that had the power to shatter the calm, serene veneer of the convent. As I listened, a sense of dread washed over me. The convent, which had once felt like a sanctuary, was now a prison. The nuns, who had once seemed like angels of mercy, were now the keepers of a monstrous secret. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the blood rushing in my ears. I was in danger. I was the unsuspecting lamb, led to the slaughter. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I was not safe here. The walls of the convent, which had once offered protection, were now closing in on me. The nuns, the women I'd trusted, were not what they seemed. They were hiding something that could cost me my life. But what was it? What was this terrible secret that they were so desperate to keep hidden? Whatever it was clear that I was not meant to know. I was an outsider, an intruder in their world. They would stop at nothing to protect their secret, even if it meant silencing me forever. I knew then I had to escape. With every tick of the clock, my heart pounded louder, echoing the urgency of my situation. The labyrinthine corridors of the convent stretched out before me, a maze of darkness and uncertainty. The flickering light from the solitary candle I held did little to dispel the ominous shadows that lurked in every corner. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and dust, punctuated by the occasional waft of incense that still clung to the walls. The sound of my own hurried breath was a deafening roar in the silence of the night. Each step I took on the creaking floorboards felt like a loud proclamation of my presence, a beacon for those I was desperate to evade. As I navigated the winding hallways, the chilling sounds of the night seemed to seep into the very marrow of my bones. The hooting of an owl, the rustle of the wind against the old stone walls, the distant tolling of the chapel bell, each sound was a phantom touch, a spectral whisper that sent icy tendrils of fear creeping down my spine. But the most terrifying sound of all was the silence. The unnerving quiet that fell over the convent like a shroud, a silence so profound it felt as if the world itself was holding its breath. It was in this silence that my mind began to play tricks on me, conjuring up images of vengeful spirits and lurking specters, each one more horrifying than the last. The exit was in sight, a beacon of hope in the oppressive darkness. But as I reached out to push the heavy wooden door open, my heart sank. It was locked. A cold wave of despair washed over me. I was trapped. The walls seemed to close in, the darkness pressing in on all sides. Panic clawed at the edges of my sanity. And then, just as I was about to give up, I heard footsteps approaching.